My name is Christopher Duff, and I'm a senior district attorney for the County of Orange. It's really one of the weirdest cases I've ever encountered.
This case was batshit crazy from the very beginning.
Everything about this is lunacy.
It was a shocking plot against the PTA president.
These are not my drugs. I'm not going to jail.
The amount of time they spent to ruin this woman makes no sense at all.
A couple so picture perfect, their wedding portrait was featured on TheKnot.com.
This couple had a complete breakdown.
She lied.
These two thought they were above the law.
This is when I needed someone, and you turned your back on me. And I will not survive this.
I always thought they would get away with it. So this is my old neighborhood. These are the apartments over there, and I'm just gonna go through this neighborhood because it's kind of cute. We had a cool little place right across from the school, and I was super excited every day to come to the school and volunteer. Yeah, I ran the Meet the Masters art program and the after-school program, and I was on the PTA.
She was always willing to volunteer for everything. She could never say no.
I logged in some hours.
The schools, that's mainly why a lot of people come here to Irvine.
People came from everywhere to live in Irvine.
Irvine is very much a master planned community.
It's cookie cutter type neighborhood, very wealthy.
The houses all look the same.
Irvine does not have any liquor stores or bars.
All the kids walk to school or ride their bikes.
You've got sidewalks everywhere. Everything is green. It just feels really, really safe.
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 It's just a very safe place to live.
Irvine, please.
Yes, hi. My daughter's a student at Plaza Vista Elementary School.
We're at Plaza Vista Elementary School. This is where the crime occurred.
I was in the front office and I saw a police car drive up and was asking if Kelly Peters was here. I went back and got Kelly, and she didn't know what it was about. She's saying, you know, she thought, did her husband get in an accident, or, you know, she didn't know what had happened.
And I ran up there, and I was in tears. Did something happen to Bill? And they were like, you know, no, calm down, you know, no, nothing happened to your husband. I was like, oh, okay, so what's up, you know? And he said, can you get the keys to your car? Very, very stern. I said, sure, but why?
There was a report of reckless driving, somebody impaired, maybe a DUI driver, somebody that was impaired driving on campus.
And then he took her outside and I guess walked over to her car.
I can see that my car is surrounded by police, and at the time there was a helicopter flying over. And I joked and said, is there a dead body in my car or something? And he stopped me. He said, I need you to stop talking.
So you specifically saw her place something behind her seat?
The phone call mentioned that you had put drugs in the backseat of your car. And I was like, what? No.
They walked up to the car and just a quick plain view search of the vehicle from the outside could see drugs in a pretty big bag of marijuana, just in plain view.
They went in the pocket and started pulling out bags of pills. This was all of a sudden very serious.
Drugs in a car on campus during school hours are a big deal. In the bag, we found about 30 Vicodin pills, and then we found the second bag, which had about 10 pills in it, which later we found out were Percocet. At the time, to have those drugs without a prescription was a felony.
When I first heard that they had found drugs in Kelly's car, my initial reaction was, there's no way. Then you start getting your second thoughts, right? I mean, Kelly's free-loving, she's hippie, maybe she's got pot in her car, and maybe she forgot to take it out.
People started to question, oh, is Kelly for real? Oh, is she the nice, bubbly lady? Is she on drugs? Is she selling drugs? Did she bring those drugs to school to sell?
So you start thinking like, oh gosh, maybe she did.
They pulled out the marijuana, put it on the hood of the police car, and then bags of pills, and then a pipe. and putting it on top of the police car.
It was right when school was being dispersed and kids were coming out and her daughter was coming out. She was going to see this.
Parents are driving by, kids are getting out of school, and I was like, please put the drugs away. This is going to be in the minds of these children. Please put the drugs somewhere else, please. And I was just begging him.
She was on her knees, crying, begging that he doesn't arrest her.
They brought me inside the school in front of everybody. They took me inside this conference room. They did a drug test, drunk test.
She kind of seemed believable as she was doing this. He still didn't completely rule her out as a suspect. He's like, I don't think she did it, but I'm not positive. She gave consent for the officers to search her house. Once he searched the house, he didn't find anything that would tie her to the possession of the drugs.
They asked me questions, the same questions over and over again. Do you think your husband's having an affair? Do you think that maybe he planted them? I was like, what? Why would you even say that? Well, do you have any enemies? And I said, no, I have no enemies. Nobody would do this to me. And then I remember Heather, the principal, saying, you know, you do have an enemy, you're not remembering. What about Jill and Kent Easter? And then she said, oh my gosh, it's been exactly a year. It's been exactly a year. Well, I have an enemy. I guess I do have an enemy.
Hi, my name is Annette Homewood, and I am auditioning for the role of Jill Easter.
Jill's 2 common marks.
Hi, I'm Jill Easter.
Hi, I'm Jill Easter. I grew up in Orange County. Of course, I wanted to go to the best school, so I went to UC Berkeley, became a, practicing lawyer.
And that's where I met my husband, Kent.
That young love.
Hi, I'm auditioning for the role of Kent Easter.
Oh, she definitely wears the pants.
She's the boss, and I just can't say no to her.
We eventually decided we wanted to have a family. We moved back down to Irvine. It's the best place to raise kids.
They have fantastic schools.
I had to stop practicing, of course, because I just felt like I couldn't really devote all my attention to anything but my kids.
I mean, I knew Jill, superficially. She was nice, pleasant. She's a beautiful woman, so she always looked really good. Her hair looked great, her makeup looked great, her clothes looked great. She always came off as very polished and very put together.
Kent Easter and Jill Easter, they're wealthy individuals.
Kent Easter was a partner at a very big law firm, making a lot of money. Jill Easter went to a very good law school.
They're both lawyers, so that carries its own extra sort of status, I think.
Jill Easter was one of our parents, and she had a child who was in 1st grade, a little boy. She was very concerned about her kids.
A mother always keeps her children safe. They have GPS detectors. Oh, they didn't have this back then, did they? Okay.
Most parents in Irvine, I would characterize as intense. So I didn't think that she was any different than any other parents.
When you have kids, something happens as a mother, and you will do anything to protect them. You will do anything to make sure that they have the best life possible, because honestly, they are my greatest achievement.
Who is Jill Easter? I described her to the jury as someone who was highly educated, entitled, vindictive, and capable of doing almost anything.
I've never seen someone like Jill Easter. Someone you read about but we never believe actually exists.
Pretty much the last person in the world you would want to have be in their crosshairs. You got to understand, it wasn't just that Kelly was detained for a couple hours at the school. She had been harassed and tormented by these two for months. And it didn't start with the drug planting, it started much earlier. And it all got set off by one incident at school.
Jill was a little late getting there. She came inside and was asking where the kids were from the class. And I said, well, most of them are gone, but your child should be here soon. Let me get Kelly.
I was having a very normal day. All the after-school classes had gotten out. I match up the kids with their parents and make sure everybody goes home safely with the right person.
Kelly's procedure was that she would have all the kids come through the school.
So if you didn't come up with me the first time, the door would lock. Sometimes the kids don't come in with me the first time through the back door. They like to stay behind and help the coaches clean up. And Luke was one of those kids.
I guess he was banging on the back door, crying. And then the teacher saw him, and the teacher walked him around to the front of the school. And Jill got very upset, the fact that her son was so upset.
I feel terrible. Please accept my apology.
Jill was screaming and yelling at Kelly, and with that, Kelly said, come on, let's go outside.
I just did my best as a representative of the school. I just stood there and took it.
Kelly was trying to calm her down, and she was getting more and more upset.
Finally, I just looked at her and said, I'm not doing this anymore, and I walked away. I made the mistake that day of telling Jill that her son was slow lining up.
So it was just that he was slow in getting to the door, like a straggler, like lots of kids are. Nothing wrong with that.
Well, Jill Easter took that to mean that she was calling her son slow, dim-witted, and that's what set it off.
The next day, Jill Easter came in and wanted to talk to the principal. She was trying to get Kelly fired from her volunteer job.
And the school, rightly so, said no way. And they investigated it too, because they take every complaint like that seriously, and they wanted to vet it and make sure nothing inappropriate happened, and they cleared Kelly. But that didn't satisfy Jill Easter.
Jill started a campaign against me. She would stand out in front of the school. She had made a flyer to hand out to people, really to smear my name.
People need to be warned about Kelly Peters. So I shared these flyers with everybody involved.
I've seen her act in ways that are despicable.
This school will not be safe. Your children will not be safe until Kelly Peters is out of here.
Every day I woke up to some bizarre thing that was happening to me.
The Easters would not let this go. Each week it seemed to escalate. They complained to the superintendent. They complained to the state of California.
After that, she filed a police report saying, oh, she's harassing my son.
Nobody was listening to me.
Everyone kept telling her no, which seemed to enrage her more and more.
She did not understand who she was doing this to.
So after that, she got her husband, Kent Easter, to file a lawsuit in Orange County Superior Court against Kelly Peters.
I love my wife, don't get me wrong, she's great. But sometimes, well, she can take things a little too far.
The fact that she was an attorney scared me. I believe there were already 3 lawsuits happening.
You don't want to mess with 2 attorneys, of course.
I mean, legal fees are expensive. When you go up against a powerful lawyer, you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself.
She had me followed by private investigators.
Here's a copy of the restraining order that Jill Easter filled out.
She filed a restraining order against me for trying to kill her.
The Easters systematically tried to destroy Kelly Peters.
There was no indication that any of the allegations made by Jill were substantiated in any way.
No, I'm not going to let this go. Not until she is gone.
We even had an email from Jill to Kent Easter saying, I need the following things done.
exhausted the criminal code for charges against her.
I want to do a background check on Kelly Peters.
I want to serve her while she's at school tomorrow. I want to include a settlement agreement, which states she cannot volunteer in any position that would put her in a school.
Kelly Peters is not nice. It's all a facade.
Why are we letting this no one abuse our son and then trash our family? Why?
You know, all this stress is starting to get to me. I'm starting to be paranoid. I mean, it was awful. And eventually it got very quiet. I remember having conversations with several of my friends. I think she finally gave up. I think we're finally okay. Irvine was rated the #1 city, safest city to live in. And I'm like, I beg to differ. But I knew in my gut something was wrong.
Irvine, please.
Yes, hi. I was calling because my daughter's a student at Plaza Vista Elementary School. I'm concerned one of the parent volunteers there may be using drugs. I saw a car driving very erratically. It looked like she had some like pills or something.
Okay, what is your name?
My name is Jay.
I've listened to that many times. Kind of thought it was suspicious the way it came out. There was a distinct stutter in there that we caught.
There may be under the influence.
He was volunteering a ton of information without even being asked.
And it has like the rim that says only for the groovy.
It seemed scripted. It seemed like somebody was faking an accent. They'd kind of go back and forth between having an accent and not having an accent.
And what's your last name?
Chandrasekhar.
How do you spell that?
CHANDRASEKHR.
So we also, as part of the case, played a recording of the phone call to the Irvine police. He adopts a phony Indian accent.
My name's Yvonne Prado. I'm a dispatcher here with the Irvine Police Department. On February 16, 2011, I took a call that struck me as suspicious. The gentleman went from speaking with no accent, and then he switched to an Indian accent, like midway through the call, and then it just kind of veered off into kind of raising red flags.
I think Jay Chandrasekhar is an actor from the Broken Lizard comedy movies.
There you have it. You're doing it all wrong. You got to open your throat.
And you'll note he knew how to spell Chandrasekhar exactly.
CHANDRASEKHR.
Okay. Alrighty, we're gonna go out there and make sure everything's okay, all right?
Oh, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Tracing the 911 call turned out to be very challenging.
Irvine, please.
The call came into our front desk, and because of that, we actually didn't get the incoming phone number. We had a search warrant our own phone company to get the call that came in. It's crazy because but he's smart, he didn't call 911. That call had been initiated from the Island Hotel in the city of Newport Beach. The detective that went out there worked for hours working with hotel staff to get that surveillance video. There's multiple cameras that followed the suspect throughout the hotel. He walked in the front doors of the hotel on foot, holding a notepad, all the way into the business center when the phone call was made to Irvine PD.
The police came back quite a bit after the incident and kept on asking questions. And then when I saw the video, it was very noticeable who it was. Kent Easter.
My name is Jay Chandrasekhar. Chandrasekhar.
And then, of course, I heard the voice, and I went, and that's his voice.
Kent Easter was a partner at one of the biggest, most white shoe law firms in Orange County.
This is a photo of the Island Hotel. Kent Easter's law firm was in this building.
I mean, he had offices in Fashion Island in Newport Beach. It's kind of an ivory tower.
Right outside of his office? I mean, my goodness, who does that?
What is going on here? I mean, this is reality TV stuff.
I guess they didn't realize there was video cameras, in hotels.
We tried to do a simultaneous search warrant at both locations, Ken Easter's home, as well as his place of employment, which is a law firm in Newport Beach.
I was told that they were going to be hard to arrest, is because they were both attorneys.
There was a lot of thought that just went into how do you get an attorney who committed a crime to talk? We were working 15, sometimes 20-hour days to get to this point. A lot of investigative work went into this. Kent was the goal, really, to get him and find a place that he would likely talk to us, and following him and doing some surveillance, we knew where he would park. We knew what time he started work. He developed a pattern. He was a little surprised, but he played it off really good.
Got any idea what the heck we're talking about?
No, I don't.
Nothing like that?
Yeah.
Okay. It'll come full circle to you. I know you're a smart man.
Yeah, I am a smart guy, and I appreciate what you're saying and the fact that obviously you have been interested in me for some reason. And actually, I have no idea what incident was or wasn't happened with Peters.
He denied knowing anything about the day that the drugs were planted in a car, any police activity or anything like that. He wasn't telling the truth, but he was locking himself into a lie. These two had a very good knowledge of the law, and they also hired two of the best attorneys in Southern California. Sometimes you might just request maybe text messages or call record logs, but we requested tower information, really everything that you could possibly ask for the phones, we did.
They had their cell phones rather than using any type of burner cell phone.
We could see that they were calling each other during the early morning hours. We could also see that their phones were pinging off of towers next to Kelly Peters' residence. So this is the apartment complex that Kelly lived in. It actually happened at about between 2:30 and 4:30 a.m.
I mean, they went in the middle of the night and planted these drugs.
You know, some crooks would leave their phones at home or turn their phones off. But in this case, both Jill and Kent's phone were on and they were communicating. We could see all of this.
I was shocked that they could have anything to do with this. They're two attorneys. Why would they ever risk something like that?
It offended me personally that somebody in the legal community would do such a thing.
Didn't treat her like someone, as educated as they were. I think that they thought they were powerful people that could order people around and were used to getting what they wanted.
Every day started to become so stressful for me because I just didn't know what was going to happen.
They thought they were above the law.
Were they?
Clearly not.
So before anything happened, I took on more responsibility at the school. They gave me a desk at the front. I had a real place there. I thought, I want to work with kids. I just loved it. So I decided that I was going to get my teaching credential and be a substitute teacher. And the teachers would say, if you get your teaching credential, we will for sure hire you. That was my big plan.
Did you do that?
No. Okay. Drugs were planted in my car instead. Yeah.
She's been called the mom from hell, but Jill Easter says everyone has the facts all wrong. Jill is here speaking out for the first time in an exclusive interview. Do you hold her responsible for not properly supervising and protecting your son?
I'm not even sure it was negligence.
What do you mean?
I think it was purposeful.
What would be her motive?
She would have to answer that.
There were parents that didn't want me at the school. They were convinced that I did this. I wasn't allowed to say anything. I could not defend myself. I was not allowed to say anything to anybody.
Kelly and her family, I was immediately struck by how affected they were by all of this. They were scared.
I would be out walking my dogs and someone would yell out the window, "We don't want you at the school anymore."
And then after the drug planting, there was a whole year before the Easters got arrested. So Kelly and her family were living in fear. What on earth are these crazy people gonna do to us next?
I was transferred into a new unit. I was just kind of going through the new files, learning about each one. And I came across the Easter case that was still being worked on and hadn't been filed yet.
Well, I mean, the facts of this case are from a movie. They are almost unbelievable.
Ironically, even though Jill Easter wrote a book about committing the perfect crime, amazingly, the Easters left so many clues.
Jill Easter was an amateur author who self-published this sort of racy novel about an MMA fighter who got embroiled in this drug scheme and was trying to commit the perfect crime.
Admitting the existence of her desire felt like jumping off a cliff.
But it was a big deal to Sunny.
Because she already knew what she wanted. Sex.
I don't have the right underwear for this. Then take them off.
Kent Easter actually narrated a promo video for the book.
If you knew how to commit the perfect crime, would you do it? The crime is shockingly simple and 100% possible. No one will get hurt, and there's no way they can get caught.
Holding House, a novel by Ava Bjork.
And they posted it on YouTube. When? The day after they planted the drugs in Kelly Peters' car.
Oh, my goodness. Why don't you just say, here I am, I did it.
The detectives from Irvine Police called me and said, hey, what's going on with this case? Are you going to file it? And I looked at it and I said, I think it's ready to go. There was cellular phone evidence. They used their own personal cell phones rather than burner cell phones. We had the DNA evidence. I mean, they planted drugs without wearing any gloves, which is mind-boggling to me, that people so smart wouldn't think about leaving their DNA.
I mean, who does that? It's insane.
They were told that they would not be arrested, that they'd be allowed to turn themselves in, and we decided that that was not the appropriate way to handle the case, that they shouldn't be given special treatment. That was a shock to them and a blow to them.
Doesn't matter if you're rich or powerful or you're a lawyer. You break the law, you're going down.
Your hyperbole, they really don't concern me. I know haters wanna murder me. I burn them to the 3rd degree. I bring that heat, man. You dudes is Wayne bro. Bieber in the same pose like Ellen is Kango. Beats I bang nose like flows in the hallway. King talk hard like Iron Mike ring walk. The champ is here. Godspeed, the camp is here. Now that the rain is gone, I can see it crystal clear. Things ain't what they appear. On the road I steer, and cowards get caught up in the lights like deers. I shine.
So when the Easters finally got arrested, I didn't know when it was going to happen or if it was going to happen or where it was going to happen. I was not being kept in the loop. It was right at school was getting out. Jill and Kent had gotten arrested, and I was finally, you know, off the hook.
Sir, did you knowingly participate in a scheme with your wife to frame Kelly Peters?
No.
I thought I was doing a lot for my family and for my son. I really love my wife and I want to do anything for her. I care about her enough to put my own needs, I guess, below hers. You do crazy things for love, I think.
It was weird. It was crazy to hear that a guy of that stature would have gotten involved in something like this. But I think where it all went wrong for him is when it came to his wife, he was just weak. He did what he was told. And that's not to excuse his behavior. It's not to say he didn't know what he was doing. He knew full well what he was doing. He knew better. But in an effort to placate his wife, who was the mastermind of this whole crazy scheme, he did it. He followed through with it. And he thought he was going to get away with it.
For someone that doesn't know, what's the definition of cuckold?
Kent Easter and Jill Easter worked together with this cuckold defense to try to ensure that Kent escaped criminal consequences. Why? Because they knew if he got convicted, he'd lose his bar license. He would lose his ability to make all that money and support the family.
This is a case of a trusting husband, no more, no less. But it's also a case that, sadly, as we've all learned after the fact, about a dishonest wife.
It came out during the criminal trial that Jill Easter was having an affair with a firefighter.
He testified that he knew his wife was having an affair. It was essentially, he was in a cuckold relationship. She ordered him around.
This was his own defense lawyers putting this stuff up. These racy text messages, these X-rated emails about this affair. And it was all laid bare for the public to see.
Hi, my name is Sean, auditioning for fireman/Jill's lover.
While they were doing surveillance, they noticed a suspicious male walk up, kind of looking around, looking at the detectives that were in undercover cars. Made him pretty much figured out they were detectives, something's wrong. Quickly turned around and walked away. And shortly after, they saw Jill Easter run out of the house in lingerie and then run back into the house. And the detectives realized they were probably compromised. It's then that kind of triggered the search warrant service at the house. And then one of our detectives followed that male who left and realized that he was there to have an affair with Jill.
Jill Easter was having a torrid affair with a firefighter.
We found out he was a firefighter. He had been having an affair, romantic relationship with Jill for, I think, about 2.5 years. He was in love with her.
Sometimes truth is stranger than fiction.
There were other of her friends that were involved. There were some other of his firefighter friends that were involved. And it would happen when Kent would go to work. He was very cooperative with us from the very beginning. He ultimately did some covert calls for us, trying to get Jill to talk. He also agreed to wear a wire to meet with Jill at a nearby park.
Because they were calling me and asking me all these questions about this girl. And I'm like, what's happened to her? Tell me. Do you think I hurt some girl? I don't know. They won't tell me. But they kept asking me questions about this girl. You should know. You should know. I know you would. I know you would never do anything. You know it. Then why are they asking me questions?
You think I know? I'm waiting for someone to help me. I'm losing everything here. I don't know.
Well, if you haven't done anything wrong, then you should be fine.
I am not going to be fine. Do you understand me?
Kent Easter, his whole defense that his criminal lawyers came up with was he didn't know what he was doing. He was just following orders. So they just tried to generate sympathy. This guy's beaten down. He's getting cheated on by his wife. He's humiliated.
You're going to see how the Easters went after this poor lady over this incident, even though nothing happened to their child.
We basically had a strong case. The only way they thought that they could defeat the evidence that we had was to claim that Kent Easter did not know what was going on. He's a lawyer with a lot of experience, blindly followed her lead and called the police.
When we heard that Jill was going to finally show up, we were excited to see what she was going to do.
When Jill Easter took the stand, the first thing she did was brag about how accomplished she was and about her educational pedigree. She said, "I went to the best law school of anyone in this room," which included the judge. That's how she started off her testimony.
It was just crazy times 1,000 every single time. And another time, she showed up, there was a bunch of whispering going on.
Jill Easter had already pled guilty to the charges. They were going to call her, I think, to somehow take the rap for everything. And then the trial just got weirder.
They were discussing something, and Rob turned to me and said, "We're going to not talk to Jill today because she apparently needs an interpreter." And we were like, okay, well, she's deaf.
She showed up, feigned that she was deaf, even though at no point of any interaction with police or anyone, did she ever claim to not be able to hear?
I'm not sure why she did it. Maybe to buy extra time to come up with answers, maybe to try to generate some sort of sympathy with the jury. But all that went out the window when she was in the hallway at some point later after her testimony and was talking perfectly normally to her husband, and the jury saw it all in the hallway.
The man she was having an affair with told us absolutely she's not deaf.
It was so crazy that the defense ended up not calling her at all because it became so weird and circus-like.
Well, I think the jurors found it offensive. I mean, in addition to everything else in this case that was offensive, that was just one more log on the fire.
Kent and Jill Easter were charged with felony false imprisonment. They were charged with 2 counts of conspiracy and conspiring to have her falsely imprisoned. It was important for me to have felony charges because when you're a lawyer, I mean, you're supposed to protect people and help people.
Chris Duff, the DA, he always had my back.
They harassed this poor woman for 6 months, sued her. They knew she had no money. They knew she couldn't defend herself against a lawsuit against, these 2 lawyers. I mean, they harassed her and mentally broke her down. They should be disbarred. These people should not be allowed to practice law.
He had their number. I felt safe with this man.
Jill Easter served 120 days in jail. Ken Easter was given 180 days.
It's my understanding that the Easters got divorced shortly after the criminal trial and are still living in Orange County. I know that Jill Easter's changed her name like 3 separate times. I don't know what her name is now.
You pled guilty to what?
It's not a drug charge. It's something like restricting the freedom of another.
Meaning that you planted the drugs.
Okay.
Ken Easter hired one of the most high-priced, high-powered criminal defense attorneys in the county. A lot of good that did him. He ended up losing. So he tried a different approach in my case, in the civil case. In my case, he tried to portray himself as woe is me, I'm poor, I'm broke, I've already been punished enough, and he chose to represent himself.
I was being prepped to come face to face with Kent Easter. He was going to represent himself. And that was something I was really terrified by.
A person who represents themselves has a fool for a client. Again, Ken Easter was a partner at a major firm, probably had a dozen tailored suits at home. He showed up in our civil case wearing this ratty blue sweater.
He didn't have a belt on. His pants were falling down. He was dressed like Mr. Rogers.
With basically his pockets turned out, trying to cry poor. We've been punished enough and we're broke. We don't have any ability to pay. You shouldn't award punitive damages. And as part of that, at one point, told the jury that Jill Easter was on food stamps. She was living in a $4 million mansion in Newport Beach at the time. During my closing argument in this trial, I couldn't help it. I had to bring it up to the jury. I said, look at him. He's wearing the same blue sweater every single day, trying to have you believe that he's broke. Don't you believe it? And the jury didn't.
A warm-hearted PTA mom from Irvine, California, framed by scheming, vindictive parents. A jury earlier this month awarding her $5.7 million in damages.
So Kelly's rich.
A judgment is only as good as someone's ability to pay it. The only source of money that we would have would be Kent and Jill Easter themselves, and they did their best to squirrel away and hide their assets. In fact, right after he was arrested, Kent Easter gave his house away, his multi-million-dollar Irvine mansion, to his father-in-law. Fortunately, we were able to go get that house, have it sold, and the proceeds were used to compensate Kelly and her family. It was nowhere near $5.7 million, unfortunately.
I paid off my attorneys. I got everyone paid off, which felt really good because I had a team of people holding me up the whole time. And they got paid, and that was important to me.
I do think justice was served. Not only for Kelly and her family, but also punitive damages. Because it's not just about compensating the family, it's also about punishing Kent Easter and Jill Easter. So are you sorry for your part in all of this? Even though you maintain you didn't know what you were doing, are you sorry for what you did that set this all in motion?
There's too many parts to that question I can't answer.
One of the things that really has stuck with me about this case and about these two is their just complete and utter lack of remorse.
Even after pleading guilty, there was never any acceptance of responsibility. There was no apology to Kelly.
Don't you think you'd feel better if you just said, you know what, I did it, I screwed up, I regret it, I'm sorry? Wouldn't that feel good just to say that?
Is this a therapy session or a deposition?
It's hard to describe. One of the weirdest cases I've ever encountered. I mean, usually there's a motive. People need money. Someone gets stabbed or shot in a moment of heat of passion, which is not excusable, but at least understandable. Here, there's nothing to understand.
And the things that they did in this case just really blew our minds.
He goes and does this thing that's clearly illegal. I guess I'm wondering about why he would do that.
We had a break in the deposition, and I had bagels, I had coffee, and we were just like old chums. And I asked him, I said, hey, man, off the record, like, dude, why? There was a moment where he leaned forward, he wanted to unload, he wanted to tell me. And then he caught himself, and he stopped himself, and he didn't. And that's, honestly, that's a mystery that I don't think will ever be solved, is the why.
Why did they continue to take it so far?
I guess it seems extreme.
My guess is that this personality type often got what she wanted.
Yeah, it's very eye-opening. Are they crazy? Yes. Is Anahita right? Can you defend them? No, you can't.
It's mind-blowing and beyond anyone's capability of ever understanding. I was vindicated. That's a good feeling, especially against people who think they're better than you or smarter than you. I mean, do they still think they're smarter than me?
This is Jeopardy! Here are today's contestants. A private investigator from Queens, New York, Anna Hendrick. A management consultant from San Diego, California, Kent Easter.
Kent. What is ox? No.
It's almost like the George Santos before George Santos.
She's a monster.
Her whole campaign was to help women in horrible situations.
That's when she started collecting money. I always thought she was hiding something.
Candace was setting me up for the kill.
This girl robbed me big time. Yeah, I was pissed. Oh, I would like to slap her.
True crime story, Smugshot.